Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Stephanie and I appreciate y'all stopping by. In this video, I'm excited to share with you how I created these 6 easy angel-themed Christmas DIYs. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Let's go ahead and grab some crafting supplies and get started. Jumping right into DIY number 1. For this project, I used one of these flamingos from the Dollar Tree. I started by taking a sharp utility knife and carefully cut the head off of the flamingo at the base of the neck so that I was left with only the body. Next, using the utility knife, I carefully separated the 2 pieces of the body along the middle seam. This is made of such a thin plastic that the knife had absolutely no trouble gliding right through it. Once I had the 2 pieces separated, I flipped them over and placed them together to form a set of angel wings. I then took some short pieces of a skinny stick and used hot glue to attach them to the middle of the 2 wings where they met to hold them together. After I had all the wood pieces in place, I did go and add more hot glue under the ends for more security. I never could get the bottom stick to lay correctly, so I went ahead and removed it and used a generous amount of hot glue in that area to hold the wings together. I used Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster and gave the front and back of the wings about 3 good coats to fully cover the pink. Once that was dry, I used some folk art enamel paint in the color gold ore and lightly dry brushed the front of the wings. I did go back with the plaster colored paint and tone down any areas where I may have gotten a little heavy-handed with the gold. After all the paint was dry, I used some of this white feather boa from Hobby Lobby that I had left over from a previous project and wrapped it around the center of the wings using hot glue to secure it in place to cover up the gap. Next, I went ahead and attached the boa around the outside edge of both wings using hot glue to secure it in place to give them a nice finished look. I wanted the wings to be a bit more defined, so I took some scissors and trimmed up the feathers on the boa until I was happy with the way it looked. Then I used one of these mistletoe picks from this 2-pack that I got from Amazon, and I will leave a link to these in the description box below. I removed the ribbon from the top of the mistletoe and then used folk art enamel paint in the color gold ore to paint the berries. Once the paint was dry, I took some jute twine and wrapped it around the top of the mistletoe and tied it in a knot. I then took 2 of these small gold bells that I had in my stash and added 1 bell to both ends of the twine, securing them each with a double knot. I wanted the bells to hang at different heights, so I made sure when tying on the second bell that it was just a bit lower than the first. I used this white and gold ribbon from Dollar Tree, as well as this burlap ribbon with a gold trim also from Dollar Tree to create this small bow. I applied some hot glue to the back of the bow and attached it to the top of the mistletoe pick. Next, I made a tiny shoestring bow with some jute and used hot glue to attach it to the center of the ribbon bow and trimmed up the tails. Once the bow was in place, I took some wire cutters and cut off the end of the pick and used hot glue to attach it to the center of the wings at the top. To finish up this project, I took a piece of jute twine and used hot glue to attach it to the back side of the wings to create a hanger, and this one is done. I am super happy with the way these wings turned out, so I'm thinking about getting a larger flamingo and making a large pair to create a set. Moving on to DIY number 2. For this project, I used one of these 3.8 inch by 11.9 inch styrofoam cones from Hobby Lobby and used some of this 6-ply jute to completely wrap it, using hot glue as needed to secure it in place. Next, I used almost 2 whole packs of these driftwood chips that I picked up on sale at Hobby Lobby. I used hot glue to attach the smaller wood chips all the way around the bottom of the cone, placing them as close together as possible, all while keeping them straight and flush with the bottom. Once I had the first layer on, I then used hot glue to attach the larger chips right above the small chips, letting them overlap just a little and making sure that they lined up right in between the small chips to create the second layer. I then continued to attach the wood chips in layers, alternating between the small chips and the large chips until I got to the very top of the cone. Next, I took one of these 2.4 inch styrofoam balls from this pack from the Dollar Tree and used the same 6-ply jute to completely wrap it, using hot glue as needed to secure it in place. Once I had it completely wrapped, I used hot glue to attach it to the very top of the cone to create the angel's head. To create the wings, I traced out one side of the wing the size I wanted them to be onto some regular printer paper and cut it out to create a template. I then used a piece of this white ready board from the Dollar Tree and placed the template down onto the foam and used the pencil to trace around it. Once I had the wing traced, I flipped the template over and lined it up and traced it out with a pencil to create the set of wings so that they would be symmetrical. After I had both wings traced onto the foam board, I went back with a pencil and filled in the gaps between the wings. To cut out the wings, I use a sharp utility knife with a fresh blade, and now I use this one from the Dollar Tree, and I actually prefer it to cut the foam board over some of the other more expensive knives that I've used. Also, when I'm cutting the foam board, I make sure to work in sections and use light pressure and make a couple of passes in order to let the blade glide rather than pulling it and cutting it all in one pass, which I found actually rips and crushes the foam board. I used Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster and gave the front and back of the wings one light coat, making sure not to saturate it, which tends to bubble the paper on the foam. Once the paint was dry, I took the same 6-ply jute and used hot glue to attach it to the outside edges of the wings for a nice finished look. I then applied hot glue to the top and bottom center part of the front of the wings and attached them to the back of the angel. To create the halo, I used some of this wired jute from the Dollar Tree. I simply made a circle with the jute in the size that I felt was appropriate for the size of the head and twisted the jute on itself to secure it in place. Then I cut off the excess jute, leaving just enough pointed down to attach to the head. I did go ahead and use a small dab of hot glue on the cut end of the jute to keep it from unraveling once I had enough of the wire exposed to push into the foam ball. Then to finish this one up, I pushed the wire of the halo down into the back of the foam ball, and this one is done. Y'all, this one turned out amazing. It's hands down my favorite out of all of today's DIYs. I honestly don't know that this one will ever go into storage. On to DIY number 3. For this project, I used one of these 6.9 inch by 2.9 inch styrofoam cones from the Dollar Tree and almost 3 rolls of this silver glitter ribbon from the Family Dollar. I started by cutting several strips of the ribbon at 9 inches long, and I did end up using 2 full rolls for this step. Once I had the strips cut, I took one strip and on one end bunched it up using the pleating method and used some hot glue to hold the pleat in place. A quick side note is I highly recommend using finger protectors for this step. Next, I used some hot glue to attach the bunched up end of the ribbon to the top of the cone. I then continued to repeat this step, bunching up one end of the ribbon and then attaching it to the top of the cone until I had it all the way around the top and was happy with the fullness. I did not want it super bulky, but I also did not want to easily see the cone. Next, I used one of these 1.8 inch styrofoam balls from this package that I think I got at Hobby Lobby. I cut 2 more strips of the ribbon at 11 inches long and placed the foam ball in the center of one of the ribbons with it laying vertically and wrapped it tight. While still holding on to the first ribbon so that it would stay in place, I set the ball down in the center of the other ribbon, this time making sure it was laying horizontally so that it would cover up the edges of the ball that the first ribbon did not cover. After I had both pieces of ribbon on the ball, I tucked in the sides and used a small dab of hot glue to hold them in place, making sure to pull the ribbons tight. I then used some hot glue to attach the head to the body, making sure to move the ribbon pieces out of the way so that I was attaching the styrofoam directly to the styrofoam. Next, I took a piece of white yarn and tied it in a knot around the neck of the angel, leaving the tails long. To make the wings, I cut 2 more strips of the ribbon at 9 inches long. I took one piece of the ribbon and used hot glue to attach the 2 ends together, then, just like I did for the body, pinched the edges together using the pleating method and added a dab of hot glue to hold it together. Again, I highly recommend finger protectors for this step. I then repeated this step to create the other wing. After I had the wings made, I used hot glue to attach them to the back of the angel, making sure that they were even. I took 2 of these matte silver bells from this package that I got on sale at Hobby Lobby and added 1 bell to each end of the yarn, securing them each with a double knot. I wanted the bells to hang at different heights, so I made sure when tying on the second bell that it was a bit shorter than the first. I did go ahead and add a dab of hot glue to the top of each bell for some added security. To make the halo, I used this 18 gauge silver wire from Walmart and formed it in the same way that I did the halo for the last DIY. I then used some of this Yarn Bee yarn in the color Honey that I had in my stash to wrap the halo using hot glue as needed to secure it in place. Then to finish up this project, I pushed the wire of the halo down into the back of the foam ball, and this one is done. Now, I'm the first to admit I am not one for glitter. I actually despise it, but I think this little angel turned out absolutely adorable. Today, I'm excited to share with you a special Christmas Angel playlist hosted by 3 amazing creators. Audia from DIY with Audia, Lorraine from Lolly D's Creations, and Amanda from 6 Kids and a Glue Gun. This playlist features a collection of beautiful angel-themed DIYs that are sure to inspire you this holiday season. I will leave a link to the playlist as well as links to the host channel in the description box below, so be sure to go over and check them out once you finish with my video. With that said, let's move on to DIY number 4. For this project, I used this 2-pack of 10-inch grapevine wreaths from Hobby Lobby and left them attached to each other instead of separating them so that I would have one thicker wreath. I used Waverly chalk paint in the color Snow White and a stencil brush to flock the entire wreath by heavily dry brushing it, since I really wanted this wreath to look like it had a nice dusting of snow. Once the paint was completely dry, I took these warm white LED lights and wrapped them around the wreath. When I'm putting lights on a wreath, I like to work with the lights turned on. That way I can see exactly where they're falling so that I get the look I want. Next, I took one of these wooden angel ornaments from Walmart and removed the jute bow from around the neck as well as the hanger from the back, leaving one of the tiny staples sticking up just a little. I then took some clear fishing line and tied it to the staple in a double knot, and then took a hammer and hammered the staple back down to help secure the line in place. Once that was done, I took some of the silver rope ribbon that I got on sale at Hobby Lobby and tied a small simple shoestring bow, then used hot glue to attach it to the angel right under the head and trimmed up the tails. I decided I needed to secure the line some more, so I covered it on the back of the angel with some hot glue. Then, to finish up this quick little project, I fed the end of the fishing line through the branches in the center of the wreath and tied it in a triple knot and used a dab of hot glue to secure the angel in place. I just love how this little wreath turned out and the message that it sends. I think it's going to be the perfect addition to the mantle and on the small wreath hanger this holiday season. Moving right along to DIY number 5. For this project, I used this wooden angel wing ornament from Walmart and started by removing the bow as well as the eye hook with the hanger. Now, I did end up having to use a pair of pliers to unscrew this eye hook. I then used Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster to paint the front and back of the wings. Once the paint was dry, I took some of this folk art brushed metal paint in the color Brush Gold and painted the feather inlays on the wings with about 2 coats. Next, I used this 5/16 dowel from this package from Dollar General and cut a piece off that was 5.5 inches long. I then used Waverly Antique Wax to stain the dowel. I also used one of these small wooden plaques from Dollar Tree, and using a 5/16 drill bit, I drilled a hole in the center just deep enough so that the dowel would be secured, but not all the way through the plaque. When that was done, I used Waverly Antique Wax to stain the entire plaque. Once everything was dry, I placed some wood glue into the hole in the plaque and set the dowel rod down inside, making sure that it was standing up straight. I took a paper towel and removed any of the glue that squished out from around the dowel and set it aside to dry for a couple of hours. After the glue had set up, I applied some wood glue to the back of the angel wings and placed them at the top of the dowel. Now, I did end up having to lay this down propped up on a block to let it dry for a couple of hours. Once the glue was dry, this one is finished. I wanted to leave it plain so that the wings were the main focal point and that they would fit in anywhere in my decor. I absolutely love these. They are extremely simple, but I feel like they make a statement. I'm thinking these are going to find a permanent home in my decor and not just be seasonal. And last but not least, DIY number 6. For this project, I used this 4-inch mini tree cone from this pack that I picked up on sale at Hobby Lobby and one of these large wooden beads that I got from Amazon. I started by using hot glue to attach the bead to the top of the tree cone and then used this 3-ply jute to wrap the entire cone and bead using hot glue as needed to secure it in place. To make the wings, I used some of this wired jute from Dollar Tree. I shaped the wings into a heart and used some wire cutters to cut off the excess jute and then cut the heart in half so that I would have 2 separate wing pieces. Again, I used some hot glue on the ends to keep the jute from unraveling. Once I had the 2 wings shaped the way I wanted, I used some hot glue to attach them to the back of the angel, making sure that they were even. I also used the wired jute to create the halo, just like I've done in the previous DIYs in this video. After I was happy with the shape and size of the halo, I used hot glue to attach it to the top of the angel's head. I then made a tiny shoestring bow with some jute and used hot glue to attach it to the angel just underneath its head. Next, I used one of these glass jars with the silver lid and some Epsom salt from the Dollar Tree. I poured some of the Epsom salt into the jar to act as snow for the scene. I then used some of these white LED lights from the Dollar Tree and placed them down inside the jar along with the battery pack against the back of the jar with the switch facing upwards. I did go ahead and cover the lights with more Epsom salt, that way it looked as if the snow was glowing. Once I was happy with the base, I placed the angel down inside the jar, pushing it down inside the salt to secure it in place. I then took this frosted berry pick that I got on sale from Hobby Lobby and cut it into 2 pieces, then placed them down inside the jar behind the angel and in front of the battery pack to hide it. I thought the lid was a little too flashy for this DIY, so I went ahead and took some of this 6-ply jute and wrapped the sides and top of the lid using hot glue as needed to secure it in place. Then to finish up this little project, I simply replaced the lid and this one is finished. I think this snow angel scene turned out darling. I love the rustic look and feel of the twine mixed with the shine of the Epsom salt, lights, and florals. And that's it for all of today's Christmas angel DIYs. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and it gave you some inspiration to create your own angel themed decor this holiday season. And let me know in the comments below which one of these projects is your favorite. Please don't forget to go check out the Christmas Angel playlist for even more angel themed DIY ideas, and you can find the links to the playlist and today's host in the description box below. I want to thank each and every one of you for stopping by, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help me out here on YouTube, and if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? Click that button and stick around for a little while. I have tons of fun projects on the way. I'll see y'all next time.